The soul is luminary. Rule 5. Guidelines for traveling the spiritual path according to the teachings of Alice Bailey. Commentary by Dr. Lisa Love. This is the 5th of 14 rules found in the Alice Bailey book Initiation Human and Solar, that those who are connected to Bailey's Group 7 probationary discipleship stage are meant to follow. Note, Group 7 also covers her little Chelaship and Chela in the light stages, who also are meant to follow these rules. These rules are only recommendations, Bailey says. If they are followed, however, we are told that they will help prevent difficulties known as cleavages or gaps in development as one continues to move along the spiritual path. So here we have Rule 5 from Initiation Human and Solar, pages 195 to 196. Let the applicant see to it that the solar angel dims the light of the lunar angels, remaining the sole luminary in the microcosmic sky. Let's read the whole text and then we'll comment on it in just a moment. To fulfill this injunction, all applicants need to do two things. First, to study their origin, to realize their own true psychology occultly understood, and to become scientifically aware of the real nature of the ego, or the higher self, functioning in the causal body. And that word ego meant soul back then. It did not mean the selfish personal nature that it means in our modern time. Then they have to assert upon the physical plane, through the medium of the three lower bodies, their innate divinity, and to demonstrate in ever-increasing degree their essential value. And the three lower bodies are mind, emotions, and vital physical as one body. Secondly, to study the constitution of man, and to let you know, as I've said in the other commentaries, back then they did not use he, she, or any other kind of gender language. Everything was he or man. Secondly, to study the constitution of man, to understand the method of functioning in the lower nature, to realize the interdependence and interrelation of all living things, and thus bring the lesser lives, which compose those three bodies of manifestation, mind, emotions, vital, physical, under control. Thus the solar lord, or soul, or ego with a capital E, the inner reality, the son of the father, and the thinker, those are all different names for the same thing, on his own plane, the plane of the soul, becomes the intermediary between that which is of the earth and that which finds its home within the sun. Two verses in the Christian Bible hide something of this idea within themselves, and students in the Occident, that's in the West, may find it helpful to meditate upon them. Quote, "The kingdom of this world are become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ." Another quote, "O Lord our God, other lords besides thee have had dominion over us, but by thee only will we make mention of thy name." This last verse is particularly interesting as it demonstrates the suppression of the lower sound and creative force by that which is of higher origin. So let's briefly go through this. What is the applicant? The applicant is somebody that is applying towards initiation or an expansion of consciousness. What is the probationer trying to do? Expand the consciousness to become the soul or solar angel. What does that mean? We have to dim the light of the lunar angels of the three lower vehicles within the earthly realm, the mind, emotions, and vital physical bodies, so that the selfish nature of those three vehicles is illumined and infused with the soul qualities. So that means to do this, we have to realize our own true psychology. We have to not only understand who we are as soul, we need to understand what our dharma or purpose is in this life. We need to understand, in the Alice Bailey teachings, our ray makeup. That's been used in other systems like the Enneagram, etc., though the ray system is slightly different in the Alice Bailey's teachings. So we know better what the qualities of our mind, emotions, and vital physical body are like. And we can see that in an occult manner. Now, the word occult here means we're doing that in a scientific manner. And that's what is meant when it says to become scientifically aware. So this is something scientific, means that we can get provable, reliable results from the different techniques that we're trying. And we have to be able to assert upon the physical plane through the medium of the three lower bodies their innate divinity. What does it mean to have our minds think and speak in a divine way, to have our emotions act versus react in a divine way, to have our vital physical body as a perfected temple, so to speak, for the soul to dwell in? Secondly, we have to study the constitution of man, which is essentially, we have some of the components of that here, the three lower bodies of what's considered to be the personality, mind, emotions, vital physical body, and the body of the soul. There are other things in the Bailey model that comprise the constitution of the human being, or the makeup of the human being, from personality to soul to spirit. We also need to realize the interdependence and interrelation of all living things. This is one of the big realizations that happens when you go into Group 7, the probationary path, is you become aware of that. In other models, like the Indigo model, that's known as green starts the process. Green would be more the level of aspirant in the Bailey system. What we're talking about here would be more what in the Indigo model they call teal. And bring the lesser lives which compose those three bodies of manifestation under control. When you really finish the path of probation, you're no longer spotty about this, as you're becoming what is called in the Bailey teachings the accepting disciple. You're accepting the regular disciplines. The accepted disciple means that you've been recognized as having regularly applied the disciplines to your three lower bodies so that they can become soul-infused. You're demonstrating, especially as what they call an initiate, that all of these things are under your control. So let's do a little commentary on this. This is my own words. We're no longer reading her text. And we're seeing that this rule reinforces the necessity to become what Bailey calls the soul-infused personality. And I've divided that into further distinctions. You go from probationer, where you're, as I just said, you're not really steady in the disciplines, to you're accepting the disciplines more in a steady way, to accepted you are doing the disciplines on your three lower vehicles in a regular way. And this process starts with her Group 7, the probationer, and completes itself with Group 8. That's one of Bailey's 10 evolutionary groups. I have other videos on that. Group 8 is the accepting and accepted disciple. With Group 7, comprised of the probationary disciple and another stage she breaks it into called Chela in the Light, the move is onto what is known as the path of initiation. And that's where the path begins, as we're becoming a probationer. What does that mean? It means that we are self-initiating ourselves through various practices to realize factually the existence of the solar Lord, the inner reality, the Son of the Father, the thinker, all those words basically for the soul. And the soul is comprised of a certain state of consciousness, certain values, that once realized need to become a factual demonstration so that the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ. We are all meant to become Christed. That word Christ essentially means anointed by the divine principles. And so Christ in you, the hope of glory. We're trying to bring that Christ as an expression through us. In other words, we are attempting to spiritualize our lunar angels, lower bodies of mind, emotions, physical body, who are part of the kingdoms of this world, the kingdoms of the earthly realm. And in the earthly realm, we tend to be undisciplined, we tend to be selfish, we tend to think mainly of our own needs or the needs of our own little group. We're not truly inclusive in the way that this rule talked about in terms of the interdependence of all living things. But the more spiritual and purified these three lower bodies, the lunar angels, become, the more they reflect the spiritual kingdom, which reveals Christ, Krishna, or Buddhic consciousness through us. Then the solar angel or soul becomes the soul luminary in the microcosmic sky, the three lower worlds. Macrocosm has to do with things way beyond our 3 lower bodies. The more our 3 lower bodies are purified and infused, the more we can help in a macrocosmic way. But we want the soul to be the soul luminary, that which shines through the microcosm of our mind, emotions, and vital physical body. The rule says how we go about this process. We engage in practices that scientifically reveal our spiritual origin and help us become aware of the fact of the soul. One of the best methods for that is meditation. We realize our true psychology occultly understood, meaning that which is occluded or hidden from us must be revealed. So this is a lot of inner psychology work. The popular phrase for it now would be a lot of shadow work that we have to do on these 3 bodies to understand their resistances to change and the scientific methods to help them change. Going back to my text, what is hidden can include our selfish motivations, conditioning that no longer serves us, cleavages or gaps in development that need to be healed. Again, that's akin to doing shadow work. It can also include understanding our type, like the 7 rays, our astrology, that are 2 type things that are used in the Bailey system. Her astrology isn't quite used in the same way that it is in real popular use of astrology. Hers is more evolutionary. Depending on your level of consciousness, you will interpret the symbols of astrology differently. And what I really like about this is this was written in like the 1930s, long before this stuff became really popular. We're so used to this stuff being normal now. A lot of people, especially in spiritual psychology, know about these things. But Bailey, for example, has a book called Glamour World Problem, which is all about the hidden selfish motivations. There's like 49 of them listed, and there's more than just that. That we need to look at inside ourselves to understand, are we really spiritual, or are we just kidding ourselves, doing what they now would call a spiritual bypass? Well, Bailey was taking a look at that stuff in the books that she was writing almost 100 years ago. We also need to understand the constitution of man, or the human being, which refers to spiritual models that show what humans are made of and how they evolve. One of the reasons why I'm still talking about her teachings 100 years later is because so much of what is said in those books is not yet being said, or it's just starting to be talked about. The integral movement that was started by Ken Wilber, Don Beck, and others, I don't know if people like Don Beck actually borrowed some from the Bailey teachings, but the different models of different levels of consciousness, not models, but the different levels of consciousness within those models is something Bailey was writing about in the 1930s with her 10 evolutionary groups and other things that she was writing about in her books. But we need to find models that help guide us in terms of our spiritual practice and beliefs. Models can include the one presented by Alice Bailey, though other models may apply here from different traditions. There's models in Buddhism and Hinduism, etc. But only in Bailey's are there these evolutionary groups, which now Integral and Don Beck's Spiral Dynamics are further elucidating. I don't think they're quite as far as Bailey was talking about yet, but they're rapidly getting there. That constitution typically includes the physical, the vital, as seen in the chakras and energy body, emotions, mental, and spiritual realms. We're not getting into all the distinctions about the spiritual realms that she had, but you're already getting a hint in terms of when I go into some more of these technical words like Chela in the light and accepting disciple, accepted disciple, etc. These are all different stages in her model of spiritual, human and spiritual evolution, actually. The more one is sensitive to the higher realms and dims out the lunar angels, so the solar angel is the soul luminary, the more the interdependence and interrelation of all living things is revealed, allowing the solar angel to bring about heaven on earth. Now, in the integral model and Don Beck's Spiral Dynamics, they talk about green. Green sees the interdependence and interrelation of all living things. That would be what Bailey would call an aspirant. That's part of her group 6. Not yet group 7, which is where these rules are applying. The difference with an aspirant is it's more just kind of a lovey-dovey, feel good, kumbaya, hold hands, we need to treat everybody as equal, and move into what Ken Wilber later called flatland, where we remove all distinctions between people. Bailey was not talking about that at this level. At this level, you do know about the distinctions and levels of consciousness. You're training yourself in them. That's why it's important to understand the constitution of the human being, the different models, and your own true psychology as you go through this process. Enjoy this video? Support this work. Help us write more books and do more videos. When you do, you will get copies of charts, books, and an inside look into our process and what's next. Become a patron at patreon.com/soul2spirit. Visit our website for more info. Enjoy this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, share. I'd like to give credit where credit is due. This video was created and narrated by Dr. Lisa Love. The Pure of Heart music was licensed for use from royalty-free meditationmusic.com. Photos were purchased from 123rf.com. Thanks for watching.